All right, good afternoon. We'll go ahead and call the Wednesday, February 19th Town Council Study Committee to order. Um. There's the four of us in the room here. It looks like we have Jeremy online.
Yeah.
I guess we'll be filling in for Jill until she arrives. And with that, I guess we'll take a motion to accept the agenda.
So,
All right,
Second.
Curtis? Second?
Yep.
All right, Bo. All right, we'll just do, we're all in the room, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so, all right, so it's a quick announcement just for everybody. This is being recorded. There's a couple coming on. So Pamela is joining us today and the ex officio role for the non-voting taxpayers.
who is?
Pamela Swan. She's filling in for Donna.
Oh,
Yes, thank you.
So just to recap too, we don't have any of the minutes on our agenda. We're working on filling those in. We actually have last week's to do and the meeting minutes from today to do as well.
I'm doing them.
All right, Curtis is gonna do those. So
Both of those?
what's that?
They'll be very brief.
Did we record last time?
Yep.
Okay, I can do that then if you want.
Okay, we'll give Bo the 12th and Curtis the 19th. Then we'll be all caught up. So from there, we just have kind of some open discussions. I know from our last committee meeting that we had with the Collins Center, who we don't have with us today. We had started into the draft of the town charter sections on elections and transition. Don't know if we wanted to continue that discussion, but we also have the draft county charter. And then a potential discussion on the proposed counselor stipend, capital program and audit committees. So I don't know where anyone wants to start in that.
Well, let me just
Go ahead, Kurt.
comment. I have all this paperwork with all of these drafts. And I did comment to Collins that I'd sort of like to get the whole thing in one piece of paper, because we're gonna have to go to town council, SEL. And I'm wondering where we stand on that.
And I know we had a couple decision points left to make in the document for them to make some final changes, but I think as far as compiling, I would anticipate we'd probably have something in the next couple weeks as a compiled document. And I know they've sent around the last one that we were still working on the transition section that we talked about last time. But that's there, but I also am prepared, we can put any or all of that up on screen if people would find that helpful.
Well, what are we gonna do? I mean, what can we do? What do we need to do to make this worthwhile?
That's a good question. It's a little tough, I feel like some of the decision points we have are kind of interesting, and it's with just the 4 or 5 of us. Wondering how robust a discussion we're gonna have, but
I mean, isn't that what this is though?
yeah, they've said,
This whole, I mean, I know you didn't like the red.
Well, no, I like the red because it tells me what we haven't done. I'm just trying to sort it all out.
I mean, Article 10 seems like it's fine, and I don't.
Yeah. I mean, 10 was what we reviewed last time, was there?
Was up to 10.
There you go. That's where we're going.
here, let's. Will everyone be able to see this?
And then the county, we had the county.
Hmm.
So capital programs committee, we could just.
I'm just trying to get it up on screen for everyone to see.
I don't see any,
Everyone line, see that okay? The Article 10?
I got it.
Yes, I can see it.
Go ahead, Bill.
yeah. Keep going. Right there. I think from the last discussion we had, sort of agreement that that was, since it's been around for a while and it's, seems like it's working fine. That we were just gonna continue on with another probably named committee, like Ways and Means. And that the duties of both of those capital programs committee and the audit committee would fall into that new committee. Since there's already bylaw establishing the CPC. Or both.
Well, that's my understanding that a Ways and Means Committee can do what Capcom does, and you can, the council can refer to them for recommendations and stuff.
I agree.
Okay.
I think the conversation was detailed enough. I think we had good, sense that that was where we wanted to go and not attach this job to town council.
So I know, oh, maybe we're in 16, the red, 1016 should be reviewed by town council. I guess we're gonna get there eventually.
Well, I think that review was obviously specific to those acts that established some of the elected boards, Curtis, and some of the other things that need to be carried forward. To be sure that. Think anything?
Really?
So we're just kind of running through Article 10, the transition stuff.
I mean, it says, did we have a conversation, was it 30 days? Was that, somebody was saying that might not be enough time, but that's just for the committee to be established. And then they have an entire year to figure out what they would do in terms of the capital and the audit. And then 1016, I think we paused on that because there was a question. I know you also brought up that the select board was maybe waiting to hear what the outcome of the town meeting and the ballot question result was before they designated additional funds for council to review any of it. So I think we're kind of stuck on that. Happens.
Yeah, I have no idea what that cost is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Trying to be nice to know.
All right, and then I think just lastly, really quickly on this section, I don't think we had too much to talk about other than the separate agenda item. The Harbor and Shellfish Advisory Board at their meeting last night. Decided to add an agenda item to their next agenda. Discussing about their potential move from being elected to appointed,
Okay.
and we're hoping that someone from this group might be able to attend that meeting. To talk about. That decision point and what's involved. in-
That they would be elected or appointed.
We recommended currently that they transition from being elected to appointed.
Okay,
Kind of related to the fact that they were not making. Candidates for all of the open positions on a consistent
Okay.
basis.
Yeah.
But I think it's, I was there last night, that's why I know about it, so
Yeah, I
I'm
was
happy
gonna
to.
say, isn't that-
I didn't know if someone else wanted to come. They're more than welcome to, but
When's the meeting?
it'll be the first Tuesday in March. So I believe that'd be March the 4th.
I think you'd be an excellent representative.
yes,
You're saying somebody else should go.
May not be a bad
unanimous
idea.
vote that you will represent.
My relationship with them is, my relationship with them is complicated.
Oh, yeah,
Well, Curtis, are you gonna be around? Could you go help Jim?
don't know if I'll be back from Bermuda in time.
Okay.
Oh, I'll throw out the invite and someone we can figure it out by email. who's gonna-
Well,
Do they
I
do
just
Zoom
put in the
with those
notes that you're
committees?
gonna represent the committee at that
Yeah.
meeting.
They do hybrid. All right,
What's the date?
it'd be that first Tuesday in March. I'm pretty sure it's the fourth. Yep, March the fourth.
Okay.
All right, so kind of moving on. 1 second, let me bring up. I think we intended to start looking at the county charter today, so. Feel weird having to do this without. The Collins Center steering through all of this rocks. I could just steer myself. So I think we'll just go. To the red changes, just to kind of run through. Everyone else can read the non-change material. So just in the first one, in section 2.1 in legislative functions. Just for those not reading, is it switches that county commissioner's role. And those legislative powers to the council and its proposed 9 members. And then it kind of continues that same discussion with the 9 in section 2.2. And honestly, that kind of continues for a lot of the sections where 3, it changes the members.
So that changes then, that just still becomes a town council for the county? Or do they-
Correct.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't have a different name.
No, they would still be the county commissioners.
It is, so it is gonna stay the same name.
Yes.
And they still have to separate out like their meetings, right? I mean, they close one meeting, open the next, just like they do now.
I'm not an expert in that, but I believe they would still have to because it's that separate body.
Yep.
Same advertising.
What is their add? Consider adding town website, is that something we really need to add into the charter?
I mean, it may not hurt, because then at least provides it as an option. I think, choose to use it, or an and. It's my thoughts, anyone else?
Newspaper?
Isn't that word starting to sound old?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
There's a lot of state law that reference. Circulation in a newspaper or printed periodical
Oh, yeah.
and all that, so.
No.
Think until the state decides to join 2025. Not that many people should. And it's still
Okay.
important, I get reminded all the time, not everyone has accessibility to. Digital media all the time.
Yeah.
Which seems strange, but I guess it's true.
Yeah.
So this section 2.8 that they're suggesting removal, let's jump down for people to see.
And 2.7.
Yep, so 2 for 7 is the county review committee. That. In effect, reviews any articles for annual and special town meeting. And the appropriation of funds through the county. And then. 2.8 is the. Legislative powers granted to town meeting, so it kind of consolidates all of that to the. Town council.
So you wanna go back to so is it a subcommittee of the town? Of the county commissioners? Because. No, gotcha, okay. Cause this would be for the. For the transition,
No, this is the actual county charter.
then why do we have the finance committee if we're getting? The county review commissioner shall consist of those persons then serving, so they become the finance.
Yeah, this is
I
the,
just wanted to make sure it's not like, it's another committee,
yeah,
plus
so
you appoint someone.
Yeah, so the language in black is what's existing now. The Collins Center is recommending just removing this section altogether.
Yeah.
And then the council would do their own review as county commissioners, or
Perfect.
would certainly have the authority to delegate that out to Ways and Means or another group that they form.
Yeah.
And I think the rest to run through was a lot of changes of the number of members
Mhm.
to be consistent with the proposed nine-member council.
So this is just taking right out of our own.
Just updating numbers, and then they clarified that job title to the Nantucket Town Manager is the county administrator.
Yeah.
If there's anything else,
Well, the other thing is review with council for section 3.6. To delete the county personnel board. In reference to the sheriff's department. Is the town does not have a personnel board. Do we know that to be fact?
Well, I guess it's a Giorgio question.
we'll flag that for a town council question. Yeah, and then it reflects back to the transition section of the town charter. For the amendment of the charter. And the time of the
Cool.
Any other questions, comments in this section? And I feel weird kind of running through that section, Collins Center stuff. It's remember that. What we're doing.
So they all look pretty
I'm-
efficient.
Agree with it all except for the personnel board. It's mostly just updating the numbers to 9 and removing the reference to town meeting.
I think they prepped this pretty well, that it would be
Yeah.
minor changes to the county charter.
Yeah.
And beating potatoes in the town council charter, so. That takes us to the next agenda item, I guess, where we can continue the discussion on. The proposed stipend for counselors. I know we discussed that a lot at the last meeting. So what that would be.
Comment?
Sure, go ahead.
I had anticipated that Joe might have something to say. I sent him a quick email. And essentially, I've done a lot of review of what select boards get from 0 to $8,000 around. I looked also at city councils, and like in Worcester and Northampton, they may get up to 40,000. Anyway, my put it on the table was 18 to 24, with 18 being the counselors and 24 being the chair or president's stipend. And I said that because in some discussion recently, it was noted that people aren't gonna quit their job and go after this for a full-time job, or that's an assumption. But the stipend in the range that I'm proposing in wherever I heard this would be like a second job where people would work and then they take a second job to keep up with the economy of Nantucket. So anyway, I sent that to Joe for discussion. I didn't mean to circumvent the committee. I thought he'd pass it on, but that's where I'm starting. To start discussing what the stipend should be, I'm saying 18 for a counselor, 24 for the president. Put that on the table.
Any comments? Thoughts? Jill looks like she has something to say.
Well, sorry, I don't know. I think we should pay them a little more. Like, second jobs on Nantucket, like. people
Okay,
need-
what's your number?
Well, that's hard, Curtis.
Well,
I
I mean, you gotta start someplace and,
Honestly, I
and
think it
if,
start at 40. I think we can afford it. I think the town can afford that. Or,
Jill, I think you're right. I think it should start at
I
40.
feel like that's like. that's
so you're saying
number
40 and then 50 for the chair?
Well,
or just
let me ask
40?
you a question, what, we wanna pull candidates from all sectors, which she pointed out last time we were here, that. You know, so maybe people who, there's some like people who don't work in the summer is $40,000 a good salary for them in the summer that could. You know, that's what I'm thinking about it, cause I'm thinking about that winter year-round community. And would that motivate them? I mean, would it motivate any of you to run? Like? Or would you just say, it'd be nice, but you know, if there's more work then that's really paying.
Well, if, again, I'm now recalling, part of that came from Mel when last time, and Mel said that the higher end was surprising. And further to my comment to Joe, a large number of the people who are going to apply for this are people like myself or others who have had a good career. Denise is a really good example of someone.
Yep.
And they're people who have the experience and the time to serve in these jobs. You know, my feeling is that a guy who's, well, I don't know if Bo, I don't want to point to you, but if Bo is working full-time at his other job, is he going to want to invest the time to serve as a full-time counselor? Or I don't know, I guess as a town employee, you wouldn't be eligible, Jeff, but you know, you look at people who are working maybe at the hospital, would they want to take on the extra job? And again, I go back to my point that I think whether we like it or not, we're going to have candidates who have the time and are experienced, like Jill or Jeremy or Joe. People like
Everybody at
that,
this
they're the
table.
ones who are gonna apply.
Well, let me ask you a question. What if we look at it kind of differently? What if we look at in terms of how many hours we think this person's gonna spend a year? Right? And some of these committees are going away that they'll be on, right? They'll probably create some new committees that they might be on.
Yeah.
But some of the committees go away, so is it more hours, like office hours? And fewer 2-hour committee hours? I guess that some of that'll be up to the town council if they wanna form those committees, right? So we don't know if they're gonna have all these committees, and you know, I really want them to keep that tree advisory committee, so I would be very concerned about that. But like,
Keep what?
the tree advisory committee,
Oh, well,
I think it's the
definitely.
best committee we have, okay? I love it. And protecting our trees, but how many hours, Bo, do you think they spend?
Okay,
Now.
so if you spend 10 hours a week. That's like a $40,000 salary. On an 80 an hour, it's like, I don't know if that's competitive,
Wait, what is it paying them an hour?
80, so that's like a 40,000 a year job. Now, the question really is not, but it's like, do you want a more competitive thing going on? And I would say yes.
We want more people to run, you mean? Or you
Yeah,
want
it just
more
gives you more
competitive?
choice. And, depending how you set this up, I think it's, the system itself has more transparency, I believe. As long as the meetings are open, which if you talk, the Bridgewater example was just that, like you have open meetings because you're doing less in executive session, most of the executive stuff is being handled by the executive.
Right,
Okay, so if you have more open meetings, then you kind of can trace the ideas to a person, and do you want more choice at that point? And if that's what we're optimizing for, then I think that's what then you pay more.
Mhm.
But the question is, what is the market currently at basically a buy-in of health insurance?
And I think I think they're 80-20 probably. I think the
The
fire
health
department,
insurance is very valuable.
yeah, but if fire department was 90-10. And I think everybody else shirts and skirts is like 80-20 around there, so I think it's like 26,000. The value of it's like 26,000, you pay, you know. 8,000 to get in, or 7,000 to get in. So that value, that $26,000 value is, you know, part of the pay right now, and that's the market. And if you wanna think about it that way, then, okay, do we have 9 people running at $26,000? And I don't think we do.
I don't either.
So I think, yeah, I'm probably more in line with that number instead of the 20. But I think you're correct in saying that the chair should be paid more. In fact, I think should create that dynamic so that people are competitive. It's not like the Peter rule where everybody just falls back, you know, I think.
The Peter principle. you
The Peter
mean?
principle, yeah.
Peter rule.
The Peter principle, so that, you know, like, you gotta have some competition, and I think that's.
So let me go back, if I might, to my infamous example of Marshall or Hyannis. Everyone on the council is assigned to an area like DPW or health or other as a liaison person. So they do that work. And most of them have, like, some of them are lawyers, most of them have real jobs. But, you know, as you say, the executive now performs many of the functions that they need to have. The other thing I remind us is that the Barnstable Town Council has a full-time staff person who's the liaison who prepares all the documents and stuff. So there's a new job inherent in establishing a council, something. A full-time staff.
Oh, you mean for the town council, is that what you said?
They have, if you
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
there's,
I really hope we don't do that here.
well,
But-
it's fine.
Oh, why
I
not?
hear you.
Somebody has to prepare it.
Why not? I mean, the chair right now. is
Who does it now?
Yeah, and it's the chair and like Erica.
No, Erica is that council, is that
Yeah,
Erica
that
council
would be-
person?
Gotcha, okay,
Yeah.
so just.
The
keep that
Erica
position
person.
to-
Yeah.
Yeah, who gets all
Who's,
the,
by the way, on the side of council, who's not within the executive. I mean, they're part of the legislative. And they're directing all the clerical work, the admin.
Gotcha, so it's just really more of a job.
Yeah, so if that's what you're saying,
That's fine.
then that's, you know, I mean, that's part of
well, that's a
our
job.
decision.
Yeah, built into.
Maybe that's less now that we can just direct work to this person who's gonna do the administrative.
Rachel, what do you think?
Come on, girl.
I don't think Erica's job would just shift to the person.
No, I
who's
don't
on
mean
the
about
council. I
Erica.
think
What
you
do
would
you
have
think the
completely
pay
separate ones.
schedule should be if you?
Oh, I was thinking it was closer around 30,000. Especially with the health insurance consideration, and if you did even like minimum wage at 40 hours, it comes out to about 30,000. So, but most other towns, and I think the Collins is gonna try and put something together for us, is much lower than that.
I-
So
I
I don't wanna
concur.
be a complete anomaly over here, and I think we're maybe putting too much. I mean, there is a public service aspect to this. There's a lot of volunteer and most of the committees and things like that. So I mean, we can't completely look at it as a full-time or a second job. I mean, they're getting health insurance benefits potentially, so there's a benefit there. But I think 18-20 maybe is a little low. I would go closer to the 25-30, but I mean, I've heard 40-45 from others. I think it's a really, I mean, I don't know. We have such a huge range from opinion on this that I don't even know if we should be
What happens
establishing a
if
number.
you don't get reelected and you have health insurance, have you given up health insurance and taken on this benefit and then you all of a sudden don't have it?
You can pay into the system.
You can continue to pay
But you
in,
don't get the 80-20 split.
and, well, you know,
Premium goes up
Yeah,
Is
your
that-
premium goes up a
a
lot,
lot.
and you can keep paying in, and they give you a grace period of.
well, like I'm on Medicare,
You're not considered for this, by the way. You're not gonna give you that.
no, I'm just saying that there are people,
If you're 65, you're on Medicare.
yeah, and there are
That's what,
people
that's what
like
I'll start
me.
doing. I'll start recruiting everybody 65. You're Medicare, you're in, man.
There are people like me that need the health benefit, but I mean, this is a very interesting discussion, guys,
Yeah.
because it's gonna come down to a number that we're gonna recommend.
Yeah.
And it'll make a difference to people.
I think-
Jill's been trying to talk for a second, so.
No, it's okay. I
Oh,
was
sure.
just gonna say that Denise Cronow, who's the chair of the finance committee, and she has run a lot of big businesses, and I listened to her. She actually really thought we should come in and pay people real salaries and make it a job for them. So, she just was like, you're gonna get better candidates, they're gonna be more committed to it, the island's big, I mean, our borrowing authority is huge. You see all the big capital projects before them. And it's right, we all know it's a different job, like they're gonna have to express their opinions and write things, and maybe they gotta do some more public outreach. They can't just say, well, we'll just let the town voters decide. I mean, that's not gonna happen anymore. They're gonna have to respond to people. In a way that they sometimes don't have to now, right? It's just a different format. Well, I mean, it's true, like they put warrant articles out and then they wait for town meeting to decide, but.
Yeah, and you go to the select board and you go to public comment. And until recently, you never heard a damn thing back.
Well, and the other thing too, okay, here's a little example, and I'd love to hear Jeff's examples and Rachel's, because I'm sure they have more. We just had Capital met yesterday. Drew came to us from DPW. He is looking at changing the bathrooms. And he's kind of like, I've got a low price, a medium price, a high price. This took 2.5 hours to discuss. For like,
These are the public bathrooms.
yeah, Scott
Concert.
Smith, the break room in the DPW at the Murph, sorry, and the visitor center downtown, and then the Sheila's office. So with that, a lot of things come up in this discussion, okay? And we're all, I mean, I think bathrooms are actually really important, so let's talk about it. So the visitor center all of a sudden becomes like a focus. Do we even want to keep the visitor center? Do we want to change the visitor center? Then there's a building next to it that's like not good. Do we want that to be the bathrooms? Do we want to tear that down and start over? I mean, this conversation like exploded. It was great. I loved it. I love talking about it. But I'm just saying that was 2 hours just to talk about like doing a light, medium, heavy bathroom renovation. I can see where and those are. I want people to have those long discussions. I think that's good, and there was a wide variety of opinions about what we should spend on it, and just do a 2-year rehab and come back and then really tear it apart and then spend more money on it. I mean, it was hard, so I think the hours will be there
Hey, this
to
committee
justify it if
decision-
that makes you uncomfortable, but I hear you. that you
My
don't
only
wanna-
opinion on that is, what is our current town manager salary? 250,
250.
so
Okay.
how are you gonna? I think comparatively, if you're looking at positions instead of just elected councils and you're paying them far less than the town manager or the, whatever the position might be called, I think that's a weird dynamic.
So
I mean,
you
the city councilors are the ones who are making the decisions for the town and the manager is being paid far more.
So you want the
So-
town manager to make less?
I'm just saying, I think if you're looking at them as paid positions comparatively to the other positions in terms of their responsibilities, I think that's it's just a weird dynamic. That's why I think the stipend being the lower amount, because it's an elected position comparative to others, is it just, I don't know. I think I just have a hard time wrapping my head around how all the other department heads and town manager and the, you know, if you look at it in an org chart kind of manner. And then you're paying a counselor 80,000 and then these guys are, you know, anywhere from 100 to 250,000. It just seems
Well, I'm
like
not
an
saying that,
interesting,
you know, Denise was talking about paying everybody like $100,000. I've never gotten to that. Personally, but she was setting a bar and I wanted Jill to know that she said that, that was,
Real quick,
there were
Jeremy, I see your-
expectations that came with that.
Jeremy, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with Jill. I think you need to
Can't hear
pay
you, Jim.
people. What's that?
not
weird.
muted,
It's
I
not
just
muted.
can't hear him.
Can you hear me? I was just gonna say, I think that people should be paid.
1 second.
Hold on.
You wanna try again, Jeremy?
Okay, I've been dropped. The technology is not happy today a few times. Anyway, I think that you should pay people.
Tech audio.
And I think Jill has, is in the right ballpark on numbers. I think
All
you
right,
want to,
Jeremy, you're gonna have to start over. We had to switch the speakers. Sorry.
I like where you're going though. Just kidding.
All right,
okay,
go ahead.
I believe you should pay people. I think you should pay them to encourage more people to participate. I think the argument that healthcare is sufficient is not a good argument because also many people over 65 are on Medicare. And so it's not so important anymore because the government's paying for most of it, not all of it. I think you need to align interests and you should, what's that?
Volume up?
This is loud as this speaker system goes. Sorry, Curtis. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I'm sorry,
No, it's on our end.
Now he's muted.
He muted himself.
USB codec.
Okay, you're back. Oh, you were there.
You wanna try again, Jeremy? Should be hooked up.
I think he muted himself,
Yeah, he,
because you're not.
No.
There you go.
all right, sorry, guys. All
Keep
right,
talking.
I'll keep talking. You need to attract more
it's
people.
not on your end, Jeremy.
Okay. I believe you need to attract more people. I think if you add up the hours of what people actually will work and will think on this, it'll be substantially in excess of 500 hours a year. I think people, if they are paid, will take it more seriously. One of the things I have observed in life is even on not-for-profits, when people aren't paid, they don't necessarily take it so seriously. When they are paid, they take it more seriously. So I think there are many arguments, and I'd encourage you to follow Jill's direction on this one.
You have a number?
What
You
was,
have a number?
what was your original number?
I was.
Well, I
starting.
would, in a perfect world, my number would be market oriented, but we don't live in a perfect world. So I think we should be at the high end of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I think that's in the, in the 40,000 range. Now, I suppose one other thing to think about is Nantucket as a town, as a business, is deploying $300 million of cash a year. That's a lot of money. And that requires a level of sophistication that hasn't historically been there because it's not been needed. It is needed. And you're now dealing in town government at a disadvantage because many of the business guys and the developers and other factors on one side of the trade are very, very sophisticated. And we on the other side have sort of an outdated mode of government. And so I think we should take into account the hours, the required level of sophistication of what's really going on. And well, I think you get the drift.
One other comment about that is when you go to a 5-person board to a 9-person board, it's gonna take twice as long to talk about stuff. Like. Which is fine, but it will take longer. It's the bigger the board, the longer it takes, so. yeah,
The complexity will go way up. Yes.
Yes, big time.
So I guess my 2 cents on it before. I'm kind of in the middle of all of that. I do think it's interesting knowing that we're really only setting this number for a year. Because then the council itself, I think if they figure that they're spending far more time or energy than originally thought, they have the interesting opportunity to set their own rate, which I think may also increase a level of accountability and scrutiny if all of a sudden they go and say, hey, you guys started us at 40 and 50 and we're spending way more time. We think our time's worth 50 and 60. Well, they're gonna have to justify that as the council to the public why that was necessary themselves, which I think would create a really interesting dialogue. But at the same time, I personally, before Curtis asked, I'm kind of in that 40 to 50 range to at least start, because I don't think it will ever go down.
Well,
Can't imagine the council would ever be like, well, we're really dogging it, so we're gonna go down to, 15, and like, that's never happening. But I think there's a real chance to try to engage a segment of the population here that are still working, that are still part of it, right? Like my cohort of peers and friends and family, that if there's an opportunity to engage and sacrificing time where they think they're being justly compensated for that sacrifice on top of what they're already doing for work. One of my personal wants and goals from all of this is to see a council that better represents the people of Nantucket, not a certain class of people on Nantucket, but I think it'd be great to have working professionals be a part of it, and folks that are in the more retiree community be a part of it, and create a wider base of knowledge to make the decisions that are getting harder and harder, right? They're not easy anymore. And I think that can be a help. Health insurance also a huge help. All right, I'm gonna go to Jill and then I'll come to you, Liz.
oh, sorry. Well, I was just also gonna say that, that's why I think what you're saying is that the base salary that we would recommend is really important, because you don't want them to get in there and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this isn't just low, it's way, way too low. And then they're facing, hey, we need to be doubling our salary. Like, I think we want to set them a reasonable base that if they thought they needed more after being on the board for a year or two, that, they're not like doubling their pay raise, but that would.
I'm not arguing with anyone. I just wanted to kickstart this
Yeah.
conversation because we have to do
Situation
it.
as we often are, because we're out here and they've got to look at absolutely everything. They don't get to
Sure.
go to the county next door and say, oh, we're gonna kick it over to you, like.
Lucy and then Pamela.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, no, I definitely agree with, Jill as well, Jill did, but, cause, I mean, no offense to the retired people, but like, if you move on island, you become a retired person on island, like, I prefer like to see the people who are invested in the island. Like, you're not really a retired person, but if you, if it's 40,000 and you get an option of, having the health insurance, and then if somebody doesn't take it, do they get more money? Is it that person making more money than the other person? Like if.
I don't think you can have a variability on your
Right.
salaries.
Right,
That's
that's
their
what-
choice.
Right, take the health insurance.
Yeah.
And then if you want to get rid of a counselor, then they're being paid for it, so you can, like, if they're not like performing, it's a better way of getting rid of somebody. And what you said there, Jeff, was that when they raise the money, if they raise their wages or, and the people, they have to justify to the people, we don't have any vote anyway, right? Like, we're not gonna vote on it.
Well, I think you would in the sense of, they would essentially be passing legislation to do that, and there are citizen provisions where you could attempt to overturn that legislation for that appropriation. There's always the super extreme option of recall, which I think would be probably not the best choice in that case, and it's gotta be tough, but there are measures that are there, but I also think as weird as it sounds, and maybe this is a little bit of firsthand experience, as well. You have to face people in the Stop and Shop,
Mhm.
or when you go out to dinner, or when you go to a basketball game to watch your kids play. And if you've done something like that and have to still be part of the community, you better either have the best bulletproof vest to just take all of those stares and comments all the time, or be able to justify why it was needed. And I think if personally, if I was on the council and gathered up the guts to put forward a pay raise, especially one of, real substance, I would want to be prepared with when we started, we thought we were all gonna be investing 20 hours a week in this, and it turns out with all of the committees and subcommittees, other events that we have to go to, other things that are there, I'm putting in 60 hours a week. And this is the 60 hours that I'm spending, right? Hopefully that's the standard that the public would set for these folks to say, hey, you guys have to still be accountable to us for election. So if you're gonna justify it, it's okay. But you gotta do it. You gotta show the justification. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Pamela.
Oh, great. I'm just going to step back a minute and say one of the flags that I saw in this conversation was the lack of attention to the support for the council. So when you were talking about Erica's job, like, okay, I'm going to be full disclosure. I grew up in Connecticut. My mother's job my entire life was clerk of the council. She ran the town council. She compiled all the information the council members needed for their meetings. She did all the postings. She made sure everything was ready. So when those guys and women walked into the room and the town was there and the mayor was there, whatever, they could legislate. And one of the things that's interesting is when we try to think about how much time these people spend is, are they going to have support? Are they going to be doing a lot of, pulling of records and research on their own, or are they going to have somebody to help them with that? And I totally 100% agree that you do want to attract people who are working on the island from all walks of life and bring different backgrounds. And not all of them are going to need health insurance. And I'm actually finding it kind of remarkable that we're going to offer health insurance, because you would think most of these people would be doing this as a second thing, but I think it's a nice thing to have available because people don't all have it. But I just feel like there almost needs to be a little more definition on expectation and time they're going to put into this role and how they're going to be supported. Because absolutely you want to attract the best people for this, 100%. And you don't want all retired people or all young people. You want a good mix.
Can
Oh,
I
go ahead, Craig.
follow up on that? I thank you, Pamela. That is exactly what I'm describing in Barnstable. The clerk of the council does just what her mom did, and it's a very important job, but it means when you go in there, you've got the information and the backup. So a clerk has to be incorporated into in the model that we're creating one way or another.
All right, I guess I'll go. I mean, I think it's important, right? And I think when we look at transition, I think that's why having kind of the year transition to get going. I mean, I think there's gonna have to be some level of discretionary funds that go towards that transition for the council themselves to decide what support they're going to need and how to obtain that. And I think there's an ability during that transition period where that demand for those services may be lower to coordinate through, the town manager and existing town staff to help with some of that base level support until they decide, we need 2 people and we're gonna have to work on funding to, have someone that just deals with pulling information and getting that ready for us, and someone that just deals with taking in comments and posting meetings, right? They're gonna need to establish what their own workflow is going to be. I think it's super difficult to look from the outside and try to dictate what that procedure is going to look like for that body. I mean, I think there's lots of models out there. have a pretty good guess. But I also know here on Nantucket, right, we have an extraordinary amount of things like FOIA requests. We get a lot of them. Probably more so than an average community our size, just because of how things function out here. That how those are gonna work, and I think sitting down with the town manager is that group and saying, how are we gonna break up this work? If that request comes in, how is that gonna go into the workflow? Some of that's gonna be at the town manager's discretion for their staff to review, but I think making sure that they have the funds at the start to set up with what they need to run and letting them make that decision, to me, makes more sense than trying to dictate that up from it.
Yeah.
But that's just how my brain functions, so I don't want.
Well, is that kind of you saying that in the transition documents, you wanna say that there's like a funded office or something like that, that kind of does that, or it's just they get in there and they figure it out?
I think they're gonna have to get in there and figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think we would put it.
You're gonna have to get a budget.
Yeah.
You have to find somebody.
The other thing about paying somebody like something respectable, more than respectable, I think, is it's just like when you were talking about running into people, like the voters are actually gonna run into them and be like, you get 60 grand a year, you're doing nothing, or you get 60 grand a year and I see you everywhere, or, there's gonna be that public pressure.
Yeah.
I think, and I think that's a good thing, and I think the more you pay them, the more scrutinized they're gonna get. And that will be important, I think, at the ballot box.
I mean, I'll say it's just a rank and file town employee. Not regularly too much anymore, but I've definitely heard throughout my career, things like, I pay taxes, you have to listen to me. And sometimes it's like at the beach with my family, and I'm like, you come find me on Monday during my office hours, I'm happy to talk to you, but like, it happens, it really does.
Oh, it
And I-
really
And I think
Wow.
the more, I agree with Jill, the more those people get, the more that will happen, but I also think that there's a tipping point to that where it gets so much that that level of scrutiny gets to be non-productive.
Yeah, no, I think it's gotta, like you said, it's gotta be more of a second job kind of feel to it.
Okay, you're saying second job.
Or you don't want to scare people off because they're getting harassed everywhere they go.
No, I'm not saying that. I think it's a good wedge for voters to feel like they should be watching that, I think it's good for them to feel like they're watching you and it's good. It's good for them to be like, I'm
Jill?
actually.
Jill,
Yeah.
another, on that point, another adage is you get what you pay for. And so the voters are gonna get what they pay for.
Anyone else with their other hat in the ring?
No, it sounds, oh,
Go ahead, Bo.
go ahead. Ron.
So if
Sounds like they're starting at like 40.
the administrative assistant or the council clerk is really centralizing all the work, and I'm sure that a lot of the research is gonna be delegated to that person, then the chair and the clerk are doing most of it. And so, like Mel was saying, I know, or he knew people that did nothing, like didn't zero work. They just showed up to meetings. And, or that there were people that were really highly engaged.
Mm.
And, well, I think you want to get this up and get the market straight to begin with. You also can be conservative because if it's a lot of work, yeah, they'll pay themselves more, although they don't have quite the incentive, because as they pay themselves more, it just means it'll attract more people, more competition, which they might necessarily not want. So, which is kind of why the select board hasn't done that. Because it does limit competition. They would just, if the select board paid themselves 20 grand instead of 7, more people will come out and run. So, I mean, you kind of can keep it conservative off the bat, maybe the 35 to 40,000, and then see where that leads you. I mean, I don't know. I think you could be conservative out the gate. Just my opinion.
Jeremy, did you have your hand up again, or is that from last time?
No, I was trying to, this time.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, the argument that you don't want to pay them, that an existing board doesn't want to pay more to themselves so nobody else comes in to take their job, that suggests you have the wrong people in the job, because it means they're getting a different form of currency to keep their position. So again, I think you do want to pay people. And the other thing to think about is time in the saddle is not what you're paying for. You're paying for people to ask good questions and to make good decisions, and possibly to be very creative at certain points. And so you can have someone who sits there and doesn't do any work, and they ask the one most provocative question, and they're worth an awful lot of money. So again, I would encourage you to pay more and not less.
Look, Jeremy, I agree with you on the currency thing. I think, but the currency that is current, or that, you know, is the sort of notoriety that you get. And, you know, a lot of select board members have cashed in on that. And, you know, propelled themselves to other jobs. And so you're right. I agree with you on that point. I just don't know how the, you know, changes.
I think with it too, and kind of to the earlier comment about the work and worker review and dealing with that, I think there also comes a point where, you know, if you have the right people in place, and you're compensating them correctly, right? It's up to them to also set a high standard for work, right? So if, when the bathroom proposal comes in, right, that it doesn't prompt a 2-hour discussion because the level of work that comes in advance is so high that you might still have it in debates on finer points, but there's also an expectation of, you know, when the town manager brings us a proposal from one of the department heads, that all of the information is there, that can be there. It's at a level that's, you know, extremely high, and those things are there. We can have productive conversations, but you know, to set that standard of high expectations, I think it's going to be important for them. And that can be difficult to do. I mean, you review a lot of proposals that come in, and I'd be willing to bet that there's a pretty varying degree of information that are in those, just
Oh, yes.
from the volume, right? But I guess I would personally contend that there shouldn't be, is that the quality of work should be excellent across the board, and that's what should be expected.
I think they ought to spend time, and I think they do now, but like with you, with your department heads, with staff, trying to figure out like how they can improve things and how they can help you. I think there's a lot of that intergovernmental work that they're gonna need to do as well, that people aren't gonna see or know about,
Yeah.
but you know.
Well, I'll just say, and this is no knock to any select person throughout time. In my time running a department for the town, I can think of 3 times that I had someone on the sitting board come in for just to talk about what was happening in the department.
Really? I'm shocked by that.
No, some departments are more than others, I understand, and they're super busy, right? It's not to say, I mean, I meet with town admin on the regular, and they kind of know, so they're
Oh,
probably
yes.
getting through things that way, but we don't often see folks that come in. It's,
That's
Again.
where Barnstable assigns you. A counselor is assigned to every area for liaison. And that's an interesting model.
and some of it's just workload, right? Like if things are going okay, you're not gonna go check on this because you're spending the time on things that aren't as well as they should be.
But they need to be meeting with you. I mean, I realize because I'm on Capcom, that's more my prism, so just. Sorry if that's what I keep now thinking about, but that's exactly why they need to meet with you.
Well,
To
they've,
know that, like, when Mark Willett came and talked about needing a new water treatment plant for $50 million, like, that just got announced at Capcom and no one, you know, and I appreciate him giving us a heads up on that. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, wasn't that known by somebody?
well, some of that they've delegated out to the town manager and assistant town managers to do.
Yeah, but. Sorry to comment.
Go ahead.
Technically, it's not their job. They gotta go through town manager. They can have informal conversations with town department heads, but, you know, they're not supposed to have like meaningful.
You have listening session, I mean, we're talking listening sessions.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's the separation of.
It's not a management of the employee kind of approach. I don't mean that at all. I know that, but I'm just.
Didn't Jason Bridges used to invite people for coffee down to
Handlebar.
Handlebar?
So,
I mean, he invited me down to talk about this.
Yeah, but not, he didn't invite employees down.
I think Rachel had a comment.
Sorry, Rachel. You give us your perspective from also when you worked.
I
You can
honestly,
really
I think
get
we're
things
going way down we're getting too detailed in terms of how it's gonna go. There is right in our own draft, there is a thing that says the town council shall appoint a council clerk. So I was trying to see if it's a council member, doesn't really
No,
designated as such, so that's kind of already built in. But I lean more, so I think we're all in agreement that Curtis's original is a little too low. And the first year is a transitional year in reality. There's a lot of work, there's gonna be a lot of bumps, there's gonna be whatever. So it seems like we're looking more towards like 35 to 45 as the base, or maybe 40 is the base and 45 as the chair, and they're running alongside for a period. I mean, I don't want to get into designating how many people are gonna be part of their administrative team or not. I agree with Jeff. I think that's for them to work out and figure out as the time goes to add or remove positions as they need. So I think we're more looking at maybe 40,000 as the starting, as a proposed compensation, maybe more for the chair. Is that where everybody's leaning?
thank you. I want to get the conversation going. It did what it was supposed to.
Yeah, but
I
I
don't
mean,
want
it
it
sounds
to
like
touch the
that's the
subject,
number
but
that most people are on. You're saying 40 to 50. I'm thinking more 30, 40. I don't know what Curtis is thinking anymore. Jill's
I'm
been-
happy.
So it seems like 40
I
is more of
agree
like an
with
in the
25.
middle kind of a, yeah.
I'm in. At least it got you talking. It
Alright,
avoided.
But it
this.
also
did,
does
thank
say
you.
that 90
You
days
started
before the
us.
next election, they can provide a recommendation for an increase or reduction
Of
in
course.
compensation before the next election. So I think starting there and then letting them feel it out for the
Good
year makes the
job,
most
gang.
sense.
I think we're good answer.
I agree.
Alright, what is everybody's number?
I like 40.
40 base, 20?
No, I would say 40 to 50 range. I would love to bring Patrick Levesque, who was the president of the Barnstable Council, over here and have him talk about what the chair does and how they do it. And if maybe I could invite him if the committee would like to do that. I met him at the Cape Symphony. And he was telling me, one, it's very hard work. And two, there's a lot of backstabbing going on in the council.
There's probably a lot of, yeah.
So I'd love to invite him to come over.
He's a very charismatic guy on
You know,
television.
yeah, he's cool.
And there was a lot of backstabbing, but for this discussion. 40, does everybody agree on 40?
No, we're good, but I'll compromise with you guys at 40, but you're saying the chair maybe makes 10 grand more?
I would say 40 is the base for the council is what it
Yeah.
sounds like most
Yeah.
people are agreeing, and then the chair would be.
20% more for the,
45.
well, 20% is 8,
It's
so
in 50.
40 to
this year.
45.
I think that really is a lot. That's a lot.
Okay. 40.
I mean, it's double the hours.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, we can come up with that. We can certainly put this on as an agenda item again and hear from Joe and Kelly and those guys too. I'm sure they're gonna have opinions, but.
Yeah.
I think we
Well,
can
but
say
then we have another framework. for
our
discussion.
smaller
That-
group
yeah.
of this
Yeah,
discussion
but
was
I mean,
more than
at
that
least
40.
we have notes with these horrible minutes I'm trying to keep. That says, we are at the 40 base. Where do we go from there?
Yeah, well, we're also recording it, so they can all
Yeah.
watch this at some point too.
That's fair.
Okay with the base?
I am.
So we'll
Okay.
put in the charter document that Lucy said it was okay.
Yeah.
I think you should put that in there.
So
That's excellent. Remember the public.
we'll encourage everyone that missed to watch and we'll put it on as just a recap item. And then if there's any glaring change, we can deal with that, but we probably beat this dead horse on this quite a bit. We started to stray out a little bit, so it's very fair. So next on the agenda, we just had on the list, Joe added this on there at a Caroline and I's request to talk about how we want to start ramping up outreach. And doing that, as I know we've talked a lot about
For the sense of the meeting.
for the sense of the meeting, but also kind of going forward from that too. There's obviously gonna be a bit. I can say there was an idea that was floated around in Joe and I's conversation that we had talked about even considering trying to take the committee into two smaller groups, one that's focused on writing our kind of final report that goes with the charter, and another group that's focused on outreach materials and things that need to go out and kind of staying current to that and breaking up the workload a little bit, so it's not trying to do both those things as the whole group in its entirety. But I guess I just throw both of those concepts or how we want to think about, those are kind of our two major tasks that are left, you know, we've kind of made it through the charter document itself, so.
Is anyone gonna be able, this is a little off from the writing part, is anyone gonna be able to go to meet the articles, or are we not gonna, is that question not gonna be included in that?
Well, I remember with the town government study committee back in the day, we had 2 meetings, at 2 fairgrounds. And I would like, along those lines, I was thinking we should offer some public meetings. We had, I think, one on a Saturday morning and then one during the week. But among the many things, we need to identify all the organizations, like we've already been to Tom Nevers and Pulpus, but we need to go back.
What, you mean the summit?
I mean, we've
Or the
got to,
associations?
I just think, I mean, I don't know, we should be at Kiwanis, definitely.
Okay,
I don't know, maybe we should go to the school board and just say, hey, we're gonna let you know what we're up to, even though you're sort of autonomous. Make a list. Why don't you make the list of where we should go?
Well, I guess. I think before we go to those places, though, we need materials that help explain the decisions that we did. You know, we get questions, just kind of the one that's come up the most recently, obviously, with the Civic League Forum is why did we choose council over open town meeting and representative town meeting? And even if it's bullet points or detailed information, we need something that those folks, when we go and present to them, something that they can take home with them. And when they talk to, you know, their spouses or even their kids or whoever, something that clearly states factual information on why decisions were made. Because if not, we lose control of the narrative of that, and then it turns into, well, you guys didn't consider this at all. Well, that's not true. And here, this is the piece that we have, and that also ensures, if we have things like that, it ensures consistency in how we're representing those things to each and every group the same. Because if it's different, and the questions will be different, so there'll be a little bit of nuance to it, but. If our base points that we're trying to get across are consistent and clear, and that's what we deliver regardless of who's doing it. It will make it easier.
I have been working on that, representative town meeting stuff for the last couple of days, and I've been looking up things, cause I heard about the Civic League thing through Caroline. And, you know, there is a big difference, because you have to set a meeting and create a warrant. You have to do the same stuff we're doing now with a representative meeting. And one of the worst parts about what we do now is a damn warrant. 3 or 4 versions of the warrant. So, I mean, just for the fun of it, I've been looking out at that area. I've got a pile of paper, but.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to work on the material, at least as a starting point.
Go, Joe.
Thank you, Curtis. You're so good at that. So I think it's good for us to have an answer to that question. I think our document should just be more like, how is this different than what you have
Well,
now?
Chuck, this and this, you know, a spreadsheet, if you will, that just shows what happens and how you do it with a representative town meeting and how you do it with the town council.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go that far personally. I think we need to tell them what this is, because this is our product, is the charter. And that's what we want to tell them is like, this is what this is. And this is how it's different than what you do now. Right? And I
Yeah.
think it can be very factual. I think your reasons behind all that and your reasons behind that and yours and mine are all a little different. And I think if we're all out there explaining that, that's okay. So I don't feel they don't know what they're getting yet. So I don't think we have to explain too much about how we got there. Especially when they hear like, hey, we're kind of limited in what form of government we can even choose from, you know, when you get through that. So I just want to encourage us to like stick to the facts about what's in there. And I think it's okay if they're allowed, and then they can react to that and say, oh, well, I like this or I don't like that. I mean, it's a big change. It's not really a change you can explain that well because we haven't done it yet.
No.
You know?
So are you thinking more like, here's what we have now and here's how it will be? Like we have this many select board members, this many counselors, this is the compensation, this is
Yes.
no town meeting, this is like, right,
Yes.
kind of like right. Side by side and then
Will we still have municipal elections?
we
Yes.
would
Will they
still
vote in
have,
May?
you know,
Yes. Will they-
why not representative? And then you could have the bullet points underneath that. And I think what happened to the presentation? Is that what Caroline used the last time? Do you know when she went?
I don't think when she went to that last meeting, I don't. think
We
she
had
did,
that
like, a
presentation. I
of
mean,
things
that
with it.
kind of has some of the basics.
It has some of the basics. I think it could use some updating,
Yeah.
but I also think it could use some condensing a little bit more.
If
Being more concise.
we break into work groups, like 3 people on one thing and 3 on another, we don't have to post that meeting. It can be like a work group. Just doing our homework, getting ready, and then we bring it to a posted meeting to discuss it. Is that correct?
I think once you have more than 2, you can't.
When you have more, yeah, when you have more than 2, you'd have to like post this. as
More
a
than 2?
subcommittee.
Really?
I believe so.
Oh.
I'll clarify on that, but
Well, I'm just thinking if, you know, if I want to work on a chart with you,
I thought 3 would be okay. This one.
I'll double check. Again, this is just an idea that Joe and I were piloting.
it's a subcommittee is what I'm getting at, that would be able to meet informally or, you know, over coffee and
Yeah.
talk for a couple hours instead of going on video and doing all. So would you check and see?
I mean,
what-
we have a
what-
lot of really good materials to
Yeah.
print from now, from the Collins Center.
Yeah.
Really good.
Go, Bill.
So one
One second,
one
Jeremy.
comment I have,
1 second, Jeremy. Bill's gonna go.
ahead, Joe.
sorry,
Oh, go ahead, Bill. Okay.
We need Instagram, Facebook. You need to write paper like once every couple weeks. And with the current structure of what this is, how are we gonna do that? You gotta have one person doing the social media thing and just like a steady diet so that it gets out.
I don't know how you do it in the modern day with like handouts or fact sheets, other than what people are looking at here. So I think that's,
I think one thing I think if we have that all out there, gosh, I don't know if we can get all, I mean, that's a lot of information to put up there too, right? It's just the volume. And it's,
you're gonna need like snippets from the meetings that we have, sound bites, you know, I mean, or just documentation. I mean, there's great like news sites that just popped up that are just like swipe, get a story, swipe, get a story, and then that's it. And then you've got that.
Yeah.
Funnel
I think we need that.
going, and you just have to do that. And it's just like, here's a little bit of information. All, you know, you're gonna just feed it out.
I think Joe or somebody should be going to select board for another presentation, and more of a Q and A with them too. Cause they can ask how it's gonna be different for them. I mean, I think that's getting their perspective on that would be.
I think we have a problem with going to the board to explain anything. This really is like a grassroots movement, and it has to be.
But they did appoint us both, so.
I know.
We wanna hear what they have to say. We've
know,
heard
but like,
Tom
this
and
is-
it's been really good, but he's got a different perspective than the other ones. It's okay.
I agree, but like, they're not making a decision at the end of the day. The voters are making the decision, and to reach the voters, you have to do the.
But I'm just saying they are a way to reach the voters. People watch those meetings. That's what I mean. That's what I'm thinking about.
Well, I think all of those things, right? I think it's a yes to all, right? And I think you can go to the select board and give them that presentation, but I think that's also an opportunity to introduce things and say, hey, if you're interested in more information, you can find it here as part of that presentation. Because I agree, people watch. I know from our own metrics for when we give talks at the select board for natural resources things, we typically get a bump in social media and website traffic after this. Like you can see a difference, but I think that's where, I think you're gonna have to kind of attack that from all angles, right? You can go give those presentations, you can give it to the select board, you can go to all these other groups, but you need somewhere for them to share that information again.
Yeah.
If you go to Rotary for the talk to the, 30 or 40 people that may be there, you need to create the opportunity for those folks to share that message again. And I think that's what social media is good at, where you can break apart all those, bullet points that we have and say, this is where you can find information on this and this and this. And this is when we discussed it, right? We've all said interesting things from time to time here, but maybe
Who's our expert on social media?
Gosh.
not me.
Not me.
We need to draft like a high school.
What,
This is kind of
we
like,
should also go, oh gosh, I can't remember, we should go to the planning board, to one of their meetings too.
Yeah.
I think all the elected boards. Somebody should,
Sure. I
should
agree.
appear before
The
every
more-
elected
The more the
board,
better.
because their world is gonna change.
I would
Something
also,
like this, so we need to hear what they say about that.
all right, Jeremy.
This may be old school, but I think you need two deliverables ahead of time to any audience. One is the comparative, if this is what it is and this is what it's going to be. And then I think there should be a frequently asked questions. I have found in life that an FAQ, and it can be 2 pages or it can be 12 pages, but figure out every nasty question you can contemplate and write down an answer. And I have found that heads things off very effectively. So anyway, those would be 2 deliverables that I would suggest, in addition to anything you did video or on social media.
I like that, Jeremy. I think that's good. And I think we have the comparison. We have a foundation for a good comparison from the Collins Center, and we have some FAQs from the public hearings.
People, and people will love it when I've just found people love it when the question in their head is on page 6, hey, I was thinking the right way. And if you provide that to them ahead of time, your meetings will be a lot more ordered and will be shorter. And then also when they leave, they can take that with them in whatever form and can spread it around. Anyway, those are the 2 deliverables I would suggest you create.
think it's a good start.
Good idea.
All right, go ahead.
Joe said at one of the meetings that the frequently asked questions from the forums are on the website. Like, where is that on the town website? That you guys have your own webpage?
They were up, and then for some reason, I actually looked today and they're not there, so I need to get Florencia to repost it, but they're just on the town council study committee page.
So they're on there.
They were,
They were,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not.
They need to
I
go
had that
back.
page and it was down.
yeah, it's been eruptively.
So I do like the flow chart. I like to know, like what Curtis was saying, I like a flow chart.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think anything that has pictures and graphics always
That's neat,
is
yeah.
better.
Mhm.
And I do feel like people are still not educated on what time considers.
Oh, totally. They really don't know.
Well,
And a lot of them think it's a town representative from the government.
I'm so surprised by that because the thing that shocked me most when we talked about that is that nobody has chosen a representative town form of government since like, was it 1950 or something? Like,
I believe it's 1959.
Like in New England.
Yeah.
Is that true?
yeah,
If you leave New
Nobody's
England,
opted for it.
if you leave New England, it doesn't exist. Open town meeting or representative town meeting does not exist outside of New
and
England.
so people that wanted to change from all town meeting,
Yeah.
none of them chose representative town meeting. I know there is one over here on the Cape, but there are a few. of them that-
Falmouth.
I think they said that was the last one or something like that.
So like the
but
town
before that-
manager in Barnstable. They work for this council. They don't have any, like,
It's a council, yeah, and
Yeah.
the town manager is a strong manager.
right, but the council has the last say.
Council is do it. And they're lawyers and accountants who serve on the council for $8,000. But I like 40.
We like consensus.
Sure, go ahead, Lucy.
So last week we spoke about, so if you don't agree with the council, and then I got mixed up with the signatures, I need a flow chart. So you have to like get 200
You can get
signatures.
200 signatures to have a town meeting, it doesn't vote, you have the
Right,
repeal is a very much higher thing,
yeah,
but you
and
can
then
at
what's
least
the repeal?
require a discussion.
Yeah. And then the repeal is what? It was a percentage of the voters?
I don't know, I don't remember,
Yeah.
but it's
I
very,
think it would stand for a really nice graphic for
Yes.
how that would work.
Yeah, the checks and balances, like that would.
So that was
really
like
help you.
20% of the voters you had to get to have like an open town meeting, and then. Am I right in saying this, and then you had to get
it's sort of like
guaranteed
a
like
recall.
2,000 people to vote on the ballot? Is that? Was that some?
It's a percentage of registered voters, and I think for Nantucket, it was right around 2,000 folks. To,
And then,
That's a recall for.
yeah,
right. And that's, that's what people need to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
is-
We definitely.
so I guess, do we want to continue this discussion at our next meeting for doing that? Because we still owe a final report too. I'm sure that's not going to be the most popular one that people want to do.
Well, I would like to continue it I'll really try to hustle the minutes fast and get them out, but I'd like to hear the rest of the group, especially our chair, give us some feedback and, he's gonna end up having to do
A lot.
a few of these meetings.
Yeah.
So I'd like to continue it to the
He's
next.
gonna earn his zero pay. you mean?
Uh,
Yeah.
But that's not next week, is it?
No,
Because it's school vacation week.
Yeah.
And it's
Most of us
golf
will
and
be.
Bermuda week.
Uh-oh.
I think a good
Very
chunk of us
important.
will be gone next week.
Yeah, I'm not here for
I
a while.
won't be here, so. So we'll just carry that forward with a little bit more of a discussion of how we're gonna do that.
Yeah, we have a lot of materials. They
Yeah.
just need to be put together. in a good
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, you just need to
So I'm
organize.
gonna
Yeah.
devote a little time to lay stuff out with my taxes and organize this file, this file, this file. And
Yeah.
help me understand.
I think they could use a little organization and a little Nantucket personalization for people to.
Yeah, I do think putting it like, kind of honing in on checks and balances will be really helpful.
But I think Bo's comment about social media is very, very important. I'm a klutz. I don't do it. I don't know anything about it, but my God. The world goes round and round on social media.
It does, and I think sadly you might have to pay somebody just to do it.
Well, it may also be something that. We may have to, like you said, get some outside help to do.
Yeah,
There are bounds to what we're supposed to be doing too, so.
exactly.
It's the nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
And rules. Yep. Very cool. All right, so kind of moving on, any other public comment or questions? I know we're pretty free about public comment as we go, so. Cool. So I guess scheduling wise, we're all away. On the 19th,
Day, please.
did we wanna? Shoot for that Wednesday after that, the 5th, or do we wanna get everyone back and get a week to get settled in and? Maybe think about the 12th.
I would recommend the 12th, because coming back after being away and I may have sore muscles, who knows, from swinging a golf club. Well,
All right, we'll set the next meeting for the 12th. I'll let Joe know. We can get everything reserved and posted for that.
Right.
Seeing that, anyone then make a
Motion to
motion? All right, so Jill. Second, from both. We're all in the room, so everything in favor? All right, that, we'll call it a meeting. Use my least favorite phrase and give everyone a half hour back.